Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about linear progression and the advanced lifter, because it's oftentimes argued that that's the reason block periodization and everything was invented, is that it becomes very, very difficult to make linear progress as an advanced lifter. But if you guys recall, Dan Green, who's pretty famous, very, very jacked world record holding raw power lifter, has pointed out that, he's found that he can successfully train his clients on some linear progression. And you do see other coaches who do, but what people need to remember for the advanced lifter is that you have to program more carefully, and it can be done. And what we need to remember here, the take-home points are: number one, do not be greedy with your progress. In other words, I don't care how strong you feel as an advanced lifter, making 10-pound jumps with the weight on the bar, probably a bad idea. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make, is jumping too fast instead of micro-loading. The other mistakes they tend to make is going to be exceeding maximum recoverable volume. Again, Dr. Mike Israetel talks a lot about that. And just not programming carefully enough. Now, I right now have told people that I'm doing linear progress while doing concurrent stall periodization. But what that means is that a lot of my lifts only go up tiny, tiny amounts. Micro-loading is one of the biggest keys, and I want to make that very, very clear. If you're an advanced lifter, micro-loading is the key. In other words, yes, I'm making linear progress on both my heavy days, my max effort triples, as well as my volume days where I do high volume triples. But I do not increase the weight on the bar more than 2.5 pounds ever from what I've previously done. In other words, if I've hit a triple with 350, just throwing that number out there, the next time I try to hit a heavy triple, I do 352.5. And here's the take home. And the more advanced you get, you might need to get smaller micro plates, because you know what? A 1 pound increase or a 1.25 pound increase is still linear progress. It's still linear progress. And pretty much every time you do a lift, you can get away with this. And what you also need to do to be conservative is do not try to PR more than one exercise in the same day. In other words, it's permissible to increase on an accessory or secondary movement or other lifts that are further down beyond your first movement in a day if you keep the weight on the bar the same for the primary movement. Or if you're mixing stuff, let's say you squat and bench press or squat and overhead press on the same day, don't try to increase both on the same day. All right, and that's also another important take home here. If anything, accessory movements, increasing weight is a good way to add additional volume or workload on a day where you don't PR. Like you don't feel strong enough to PR on a main lift, so you PR on a secondary lift. And here's the thing, if you're PRing on something almost every workout in terms of weight on the bar, that is linear progress. We could talk about volume progress and all of that, but that's not true linear progression. That tends to fall sometimes within blocks or block periodization. So linear progression is about increasing weight on the bar, but that's the thing. Yes, you're going to get stronger much, much weaker. And we know from my program, from Starting Strength, from Strong Lifts, all these other programs have shown us that novice lifters can walk in and hit the same lift 2 or 3 times a week and add 5 pounds every time. In other words, sometimes for several months straight, they can add 5 pounds to a squat 3 times a week for 15 pounds a week, and do that until they reach 100+ pounds of additional weight. Novices can do that. As advanced lifters, you're going to reach a threshold, and like what I'm doing right now, I don't increase over the course of a month any of my big lower body lifts, like the squat or the deadlift, more than 10 pounds, or any of my upper body lifts more than 5 pounds. And as I get more advanced again, because I'm working off old muscle memory, I will need to drop to smaller microplates. To the point to where sometimes you hit a 1 pound PR and another 1 pound PR. But you know what? That's still linear progression. Because even if you add 2 pounds a month to a big upper body lift as an advanced lifter, if you can add 2 pounds every month using linear progress, in the grand scheme of things, that's a big deal. If you could pull that off successfully, that's 24 pounds every month, every year to your bench press. Well, for someone who's an advanced lifter, you have to look at that over the course of what can you do with that over 1, 2, or 3 years. So if you can successfully pull that off, that's fantastic. So again, it's about making those small jumps, not getting greedy, because again, when you get stuck on progression, you're probably going to have to regress. You're going to have to make changes, periodize more. Now, the other thing to look at is going to be careful programming and maximum recoverable volume. Like I talked about yesterday, there are days when I come in and don't do accessory work. Why? Because I'm too fatigued. I know that if I've come in some days and I hit a PR on a big lift, which is pretty much every workout, because again, linear progression, small PRs, there are times when especially on some of the volume days, where I don't have the energy left to do a secondary exercise. And you know what? That means I'm right on the edge for that day of hitting my maximum recoverable volume. And that's what we have to remember with the ebb and flow of our training. People always say, well, how do you find your maximum recoverable volume? Well, you'll know when you start to stall out, or you get fatigued, or you can't PR workout to workout. You're getting too sore. All right, that's the signs of exceeding maximum recoverable volume. But you know, they're subject to change. And as an advanced lifter, this is stuff that you're in tune with. And people who say, well, I think I'm an advanced lifter for whatever reason, and they can't tell how fatigued they are on the 5th set of a barbell squat, or after hitting a max triple on an overhead press, if you can't assess your level of fatigue at the end of that, you're probably not really an advanced lifter. You're not an advanced lifter, because an advanced lifter would know those things already. It would be more intrinsic to knowing your body and how you feel and how you respond to training over time. So the other thing there is, again, listening to your body and not exceeding your maximum recoverable volume. In other words, don't push harder than you can recover from in one session. You know you've got to train again tomorrow. Because again, most of us aren't on a 3-day-a-week system anymore at that point. Most of us are doing 4 days, in some cases more. You know you're gonna not have time to recover, because let's say you train Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday and Friday. Well, you hit something like that on your Monday or Thursday, you start feeling that fatigue again. You got to sometimes end the accessory work and other stuff short. As long as you get the primary exercises in, you're fine. So paying attention to your maximum recoverable volume, paying attention to your fatigue is important. Again, making sure you get quality nutrition, a good night's sleep, all of that matters. Now, the other point is going to be about careful programming. Careful programming. Your programming needs to be very, very well thought out as an advanced lifter if you want to make linear progress. At no point ever do you walk in and do something random. All right? That's the big deal. You have to pre-plan things as an advanced lifter if you don't want to stall. If you don't want to stall, you're going to need to step back and plan accessory work, numbers, percentages ahead of time. You're going to have to probably spreadsheet what you're doing so that you can track where you're at, where you're going, where your lifts are going up, so that you can make sure that you program accordingly and you don't exceed your maximum recoverable volume by pre-planning. In the case of what I'm doing, the current system I'm doing is concurrent style training with a linear progression on both the heavy days and the volume days. Because I have 2 heavy days and 2 volume days every week. Pre-planning it like that and knowing that you're going to do that way, you can pay more attention to the ebb and flow. You can program around your recovery, because you can sometimes hit heavier work shortly after volume work and vice versa, faster than you can come in and say hit 3 really heavy days or 3 volume days in 1 week. You're going to recover better from one to the other. And again, there's researchers and coaches who talk quite a bit about why you can do that. And that's why concurrent style training can work for a lot of people, because it will sometimes let you squeeze in 1 extra training session a week, because you're not splitting stuff into blocks, and certain energy systems recover a little faster than others, and so therefore you're not always reliant upon, say, your neural efficiency, which your peripheral nervous system can take a little while to recover, and so you hop over to a volume day and back and forth. And whereas in the metabolic stress induced from the volume days doesn't always impede heavier work for low volume as much. So the whole idea there is that you can train just a hair more frequently. So again, looking at different facets like that and planning your training very, very carefully, and never, ever, ever walking into the gym and just doing some random stuff that you can't account for in your fatigue and your adaptation, that's the other big key as an advanced lifter. And if people can follow those rules, I think they're going to find that as advanced lifters, they can make linear progress again, but you have to handle it in bite-sized chunks, and you have to check your ego at the door. It requires a great deal of self-awareness, and if you can't do those things, you're probably going to need to run back to block periodization. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.